Planet for Transients. The late afternoon sun shone down blinding and hot, a great shimmering orb in the sky. Trent halted a moment to get his breath. Inside his lead-lined helmet, his face dripped with sweat, drop after drop of sticky moisture that steamed his viewplate and clogged his throat. He slid his emergency pack over to the other side and hitched up his gun belt. From his oxygen tank, he pulled a couple of exhausted tubes and tossed them away in the brush. The tubes rolled and disappeared, lost in the endless heaps of red-green leaves and vines. Trent checked his counter, found the reading low enough, slid back his helmet for a precious moment. Fresh air rushed into his nose and mouth. He took a deep breath, filling his lungs. The air smelled good, thick and moist and rich with the odor of growing plants. He exhaled and took another breath. To his right, a towering column of orange shrubbery rose, wrapped around a sagging concrete pillar. Spread out over the rolling countryside was a vast expanse of grass and trees. In the distance, a mass of growth looked like a wall, a jungle of creepers and insects and flowers and underbrush that would have to be blasted as he advanced slowly. Two immense butterflies danced past him, great fragile shapes, multicolored, racing erratically around him and then away. Life everywhere, bugs and plants and rustling small animals in the shrubbery, a buzzing jungle of life in every direction. Trent sighed and snapped his helmet back in place. 2 breathfuls was all he dared. He increased the flow of his oxygen tank and then raised his transmitter to his lips. He clicked it briefly on. "Trent, checking with the mind monitor, hear me?" A moment of static and silence. Then a faint, ghostly voice. "Come in, Trent, where the hell are you?" "Still going north, ruins ahead, I may have to bypass, looks thick." "Ruins, New York probably, I'll check with the map." The voice was eager. "Anything yet?" "Nothing, not so far at least. I'll circle and report in about an hour." Trent examined his wristwatch. "It's 3:30, I'll raise you before evening." The voice hesitated. "Good luck, I hope you find something. How's your oxygen holding out?" "All right, food, plenty left. I may find some edible plants." "Don't take any chances." "I won't." Trent clicked off the transmitter and returned it to his belt. "I won't," he repeated. He gathered up his blast gun and hoisted his pack and started forward, his heavy lead-lined boots sinking deep into the lush foliage and compost underfoot. It was just past 4 o'clock when he saw them. They stepped out of the jungle around him. 2 of them young males, tall and thin and horny blue-gray like ashes. One raised his hand in greeting, 6 or 7 fingers, extra joints. "Afternoon," he piped. Trent stopped instantly. His heart thudded. "Good afternoon." The 2 youths came slowly around him. One had an axe, a foliage axe. The other carried only his pants and the remains of a canvas shirt. They were nearly 8 feet tall, no flesh, bones and hard angles, and large, curious eyes heavily lidded. There were internal changes, radically different metabolism and cell structure, ability to utilize hot salts, altered digestive system. They were both looking at Trent with interest, growing interest. "Say," said one, "you're a human being." "That's right," Trent said. "My name's Jackson." The youth extended his thin blue horny hand and Trent shook it awkwardly. The hand was fragile under his lead-lined glove. Its owner added, "My friend here is Earl Potter." Trent shook hands with Potter. "Greetings," Potter said. His rough lips twitched. "Can we have a look at your rig?" "My rig," Trent countered. "Your gun and equipment. What's that on your belt and that tank?" "Transmitter, oxygen." Trent showed them the transmitter. "Battery operated, 100-mile range." "You're from a camp?" Jackson asked quickly. "Yes, down in Pennsylvania." "How many?" Trent shrugged. "Couple of dozen." The blue-skinned giants were fascinated. "How have you survived? Penn was hard hit, wasn't it? The pools must be deep around there." "Mines," Trent explained. "Our ancestors moved down deep in the coal mines when the war began, so the records have it, we're fairly well set up. Grow our own food in tanks. Few machines, pumps and compressors and electrical generators. Some hand lathes, looms." He didn't mention that generators now had to be cranked by hand, that only about half of the tanks were still operative. After 300 years, metal and plastic weren't much good in spite of endless patching and repairing. Everything was wearing out, breaking down. "Say," Potter said, "this sure makes a fool of Dave Hunter." "Dave Hunter." "Dave says there aren't any true humans left," Jackson explained. He poked at Trent's helmet curiously. Why don't you come back with us? We've got a settlement near here, only an hour or so away on the tractor, our hunting tractor. Earl and I were out hunting flap rabbits. Flap rabbits, flying rabbits, good meat but hard to bring down, weigh about 30 pounds. What do you use? Not the axe, surely. Potter and Jackson laughed. Look at this here. Potter slid a long brass rod from his trousers. It fitted down inside his pants along his pipe stem leg. Trent examined the rod. It was tooled by hand, soft brass carefully bored and straightened. One end was shaped into a nozzle. He peered down it. A tiny metal pin was lodged in a cake of transparent metal. How does it work? He asked. Launched by hand like a blow gun, but once the bee dart is in the air it follows its target forever. The initial thrust has to be provided. Potter laughed. I supply that, a big puff of air. Interesting. Trent returned the rod. With elaborate casualness studying the two blue-gray faces, he asked, I'm the first human you've seen. That's right, Jackson said. The old man will be pleased to welcome you. There was eagerness in his reedy voice. What do you say? We'll take care of you, feed you, bring you cold plants and animals, for a week maybe. Sorry, Trent said. Other business. If I come through here on the way back. The horny faces fell with disappointment. Not for a little while. Overnight, we'll pump you plenty of cold food. We have a fine cooler the old man fixed up. Trent tapped his tank. Short on oxygen, you don't have a compressor. No, we don't have any use, but maybe the old man could. Sorry. Trent moved off. Have to keep going. You're sure there are no humans in this region? We thought there weren't any left anywhere. A rumor once in a while, but you're the first we've seen. Potter pointed west. There's a tribe of rollers off that way. He pointed vaguely south. A couple of tribes of bugs, and some runners. You've seen them. I came that way. And north there's some of the underground ones, the blind digging kind. Potter made a face. I can't see them and their bores and scoops, but what the hell? He grinned. Everybody has his own way. And to the east, Jackson added, where the ocean begins, there's a lot of the porpoise kind, the undersea type. They swim around, use those big underwater air domes and tanks, come up sometimes at night. A lot of types come out at night. We're still daylight-oriented. He rubbed his horny blue-gray skin. This cuts radiation fine. I know, Trent said. So long. Good luck. They watched him go, heavy-lidded eyes still big with astonishment, as the human being pushed slowly off through the lush green jungle, his metal and plastic suit glinting faintly in the afternoon sun. Earth was alive, thriving with activity. Plants and animals and insects in boundless confusion. Night forms, day forms, land and water types, incredible kinds and numbers that had never been catalogued, probably never would be. By the end of the war, every surface inch was radioactive. A whole planet sprayed and bombarded by hard radiation. All life subjected to beta and gamma rays. Most life died, but not all. Hard radiation brought mutation at all levels, insects, plant and animal. The normal mutation and selection process was accelerated millions of years in seconds. These altered progeny littered the Earth, a crawling, teeming, glowing horde of radiation-saturated beings. In this world, only those forms which could use hot soil and breathe particle-laden air survived. Insects and animals and men who could live in a world with a surface so alive that it glowed at night. Trent considered this moodily as he made his way through the steaming jungle, expertly burning creepers and vines with his blaster. Most of the oceans had been vaporized. Water descended still, drenching the land with torrents of hot moisture. This jungle was wet and hot and full of life. Around him, creatures scuttled and rustled. He held his blaster tight and pushed on. The sun was setting. It was getting to be night. A range of ragged hills jutted ahead in the violet gloom. The sunset was going to be beautiful, compounded of particles in suspension, particles that still drifted from the initial blast centuries ago. He stopped for a moment to watch. He had come a long way. He was tired and discouraged. The horny blue-skinned giants were a typical mutant tribe. Toads, they were called, because of their skin like desert horned toads. With their radical internal organs geared to hot plants and air, they lived easily in a world where he survived only in a lead-lined suit, polarized viewplate, oxygen tank, special cold food pellets grown underground in the mine. The mine timed to call again. Trent lifted his transmitter. Trent checking again, he muttered. He licked his dry lips. He was hungry and thirsty. Maybe he could find some relatively cool spot free of radiation. Take off his suit for a quarter of an hour and wash himself. Get the sweat and grime off. 2 weeks he had been walking, cooped up in a hot, sticky, lead-lined suit like a diver's suit, while all around him countless life forms scrambled and leaped, unbothered by the lethal pools of radiation. Mine, the faint, tinny voice answered. I'm about washed up for today. I'm stopping to rest and eat, no more until tomorrow. No luck, heavy disappointment. None, silence. Then, well, maybe tomorrow. Maybe. Met a tribe of toads. Nice young bucks 8 feet high. Trent's voice was bitter. Wandering around with nothing on but shirts and pants, bare feet. The mind monitor was uninterested. I know, the lucky stiffs. Well, get some sleep and raise me tomorrow a.m. A report came in from Lawrence. Where is he? Due west, near Ohio, making good progress. Any results? Tribes of rollers, bugs, and the digging kind that come up at night, the blind white things. Worms. Yes, worms, nothing else. When will you report again? Tomorrow, Trent said. He cut the switch and dropped his transmitter to his belt. Tomorrow. He peered into the gathering gloom at the distant range of hills. 5 years, and always tomorrow. He was the last of a great procession of men to be sent out, lugging precious oxygen tanks and food pellets and a blast pistol, exhausting their last stores in a useless sortie into the jungles. Tomorrow. Some tomorrow not far off, there wouldn't be any more oxygen tanks and food pellets. The compressors and pumps would have stopped completely, broken down for good. The mine would be dead and silent, unless they made contact pretty damn soon. He squatted down and began to pass his counter over the surface, looking for a cool spot to undress. He passed out. Look at him, a faint, faraway voice said. Consciousness returned with a rush. Trent pulled himself violently awake, groping for his blaster. It was morning. Gray sunlight filtered down through the trees. Around him shapes moved. The blaster gone, Trent sat up, fully awake. The shapes were vaguely human but not very. Bugs. Where's my gun? Trent demanded. Take it easy. A bug advanced, the others behind. It was chilly. Trent shivered. He got awkwardly to his feet as the bugs formed a circle around him. We'll give it back. Let's have it now. He was stiff and cold. He snapped his helmet in place and tightened his belt. He was shivering, shaking all over. The leaves and vines dripped wet, slimy drops. The ground was soft underfoot. The bugs conferred. There were 10 or 12 of them, strange creatures more like insects than men. They were shelled, thick, shiny chitin, multi-lensed eyes, nervous, vibrating antennae by which they detected radiation. Their protection wasn't perfect. A strong dose and they were finished. They survived by detection and avoidance and partial immunity. Their food was taken indirectly, first digested by smaller warm-blooded animals and then taken as fecal matter, minus radioactive particles. You're a human, a bug said. Its voice was shrill and metallic. The bugs were asexual, these at least. 2 other types existed, male drones and a mother. These were neuter warriors armed with pistols and foliage axes. That's right, Trent said. What are you doing here? Are there more of you? Quite a few. The bugs conferred again, antennae waving wildly. Trent waited. The jungle was stirring into life. He watched a gelatin-like mass flow up the side of a tree and into the branches, a half-digested mammal visible within. Some drab day moths fluttered past. The leaves stirred as underground creatures burrowed silently away from the light. Come along with us, a bug said. It motioned Trent forward. Let's get going. Trent fell in reluctantly. They marched along a narrow path, cut by axes some time recently. The thick feelers and probes of the jungle were already coming back. Where are we going? Trent demanded. To the hill. Why? Never mind. Watching the shiny bugs stride along, Trent had trouble believing they had once been human beings. Their ancestors, at least. In spite of their incredible altered physiology, the bugs were mentally about the same as he. Their tribal arrangement approximated the human organic states, communism and fascism. May I ask you something? Trent said. What? I'm the first human you've seen. There aren't any more around here. No more. Are there reports of human settlements anywhere? Why? Just curious, Trent said tightly. You're the only one. The bug was pleased. We'll get a bonus for this, for capturing you. There's a standing reward. Nobody else ever claimed it before. A human was wanted here too. A human brought with him valuable gnosis, odds and ends of tradition the mutants needed to incorporate into their shaky social structures. Mutant cultures were still unsteady. They needed contact with the past. A human being was a shaman, a wise man to teach and instruct. To teach the mutants how life had been, how their ancestors had lived and acted and looked. A valuable possession for any tribe, especially if no other humans existed in the region. Trent cursed savagely. None. No others. There had to be other humans someplace. If not north, then east. Europe, Asia, Australia, someplace somewhere on the globe. Humans with tools and machines and equipment. The mine couldn't be the only settlement, the last fragment of true man. Prized curiosities doomed when their compressors burned out and their food tanks dried up. If he didn't have any luck, pretty soon the bugs halted, listening. Their antennae twitched suspiciously. "What is it?" Trent asked. "Nothing." They started on. For a moment, a flash. The bugs ahead on the trail winked out of existence. A dull roar of light rolled over them. Trent sprawled. He struggled, caught in the vines and sappy weeds. Around him, bugs twisted and fought wildly, tangling with small furry creatures that fared rapidly and efficiently with hand weapons, and when they got close, kicked and gouged with immense hind legs. Runners. The bugs were losing. They retreated back down the trail, scattering into the jungle. The runners hopped after them, springing on their powerful hind legs like kangaroos. The last bug departed. The noise died down. "Okay," a runner ordered. He gasped for breath, straightening up. "Where's the human?" Trent got slowly to his feet. "Here." The runners helped him up. They were small, not over 4 feet high, fat and round, covered with thick pelts. Little good-natured faces peered up at him with concern, beady eyes, quivering noses, and great kangaroo legs. "You all right?" one asked. He offered Trent his water canteen. "I'm all right." Trent pushed the canteen away. "They got my blaster." The runners searched around. The blaster was nowhere to be seen. "Let it go." Trent shook his head dully, trying to collect himself. "What happened?" "The light. A grenade." The runners puffed with pride. "We stretched a wire across the trail attached to the pin." "The bugs control most of this area," another said. "We have to fight our way through." Around his neck hung a pair of binoculars. The runners were armed with slug pistols and knives. "Are you really a human being?" a runner asked. "The original stock." "That's right," Trent muttered in unsteady tones. The runners were awed. Their beady eyes grew wide. They touched his metal suit, his viewplate, his oxygen tank and pack. One squatted down and expertly traced the circuit of his transmitter apparatus. "Where are you from?" the leader asked in his deep, purr-like voice. "You're the first human we've seen in months." Trent spun, choking. "Months?" "Then none around here. We're from Canada, up around Montreal. There's a human settlement up there." Trent's breath came fast. "Walking distance." "Well, we made it in a couple of days, but we go fairly fast." The runner eyed Trent's metal-clad legs doubtfully. "I don't know, for you it would take longer." "Humans, a human settlement." "How many?" "A big settlement, advanced." "It's hard to remember. I saw their settlement once. Down underground levels cells. We traded some cold plants for salt. That was a long time ago. They're operating successfully. They have tools, machinery, compressors, food tanks to keep going." The runner twisted uneasily. "As a matter of fact, they may not be there anymore." Trent froze. Fear cut through him like a knife. "Not there? What do you mean?" "They may be gone." "Gone where?" Trent's voice was bleak. "What happened to them?" "I don't know," the runner said. "I don't know what happened to them. Nobody knows." He pushed on, hurrying frantically north. The jungle gave way to a bitterly cold, fern-like forest, great silent trees on all sides. The air was thin and brittle. He was exhausted, and only one tube of oxygen remained in the tank. After that, he would have to open his helmet. How long would he last? The first rain cloud would bring lethal particles sweeping into his lungs, or the first strong wind blowing from the ocean. He halted, gasping for breath. He had reached the top of a long slope. At the bottom, a plain stretched out, tree-covered, a dark green expanse, almost brown. Here and there a spot of white gleamed. Ruins of some kind. A human city had been here 3 centuries ago. Nothing stirred, no sign of life, no sign anywhere. Trent made his way down the slope. Around him the forest was silent. A dismal oppression hung over everything. Even the usual rustling of small animals was lacking. Animals, insects, men, all were gone. Most of the runners had moved south. The small things probably had died. And the men? He came out among the ruins. This had been a great city once. Then men had probably gone down in air-raid shelters and mines and subways. Later on they had enlarged their underground chambers. For 3 centuries true men had held on, living below the surface, wearing lead-lined suits when they came up, growing food in tanks, filtering their water, compressing particle-free air, shielding their eyes against the glare of the bright sun. And now nothing at all. He lifted his transmitter. "Mine," he snapped. "This is Trent." The transmitter sputtered feebly. It was a long time before it responded. The voice was faint, distant, almost lost in the static. "Well, did you find them? They're gone." But nothing, no one, completely abandoned. Trent sat down on a broken stump of concrete. His body was dead, drained of life. "They were here recently. The ruins aren't covered. They must have left in the last few weeks." "It doesn't make sense. Mason and Douglas are on their way. Douglas has the tractor car. He should be there in a couple of days. How long will your oxygen last?" 24 hours. "We'll tell him to make time." "I'm sorry I don't have more to report. Something better." Bitterness welled up in his voice. "After all these years, they were here all this time, and now that we've finally got to them. Any clues? Can you tell what became of them?" "I'll look." Trent got heavily to his feet. "If I find anything, I'll report. Good luck." The faint voice faded off into static. "We'll be waiting." Trent returned the transmitter to his belt. He peered up at the gray sky. Evening, almost night. The forest was bleak and ominous. A faint blanket of snow was falling silently over the brown growth, hiding it under a layer of grimy white. Snow mixed with particles. Lethal dust still falling after 300 years. He switched on his helmet beam. The beam cut a pale swath ahead of him through the trees, among the ruined columns of concrete, the occasional heaps of rusted slag. He entered the ruins. In their center he found the towers and installations. Great pillars laced with mesh scaffolding still bright. Open tunnels from underground lay like black pools. Silent, deserted tunnels. He peered down one, flashing his helmet beam into it. The tunnel went straight down, deep into the heart of the earth. But it was empty. Where had they gone? What had happened to them? Trent wandered around dully. Human beings had lived here, worked here, survived. They had come up to the surface. He could see the boar-nosed cars parked among the towers, now gray with the night snow. They had come up and then gone. Where? He sat down in the shelter of a ruined column and flicked on his heater. His suit warmed up, a slow red glow that made him feel better. He examined his counter. The area was hot. If he intended to eat and drink, he'd have to move on. He was tired, too damn tired to move on. He sat resting, hunched over in a heap, his helmet beam lighting up a circle of gray snow ahead of him. Over him the snow fell silently. Presently he was covered, a gray lump sitting among the ruined concrete, as silent and unmoving as the towers and scaffolding around him. He dozed. His heater hummed gently. Around him a wind came up, swirling the snow, blowing it up against him. He slid forward a little until his metal and plastic helmet came to rest against the concrete. Towards midnight he woke up. He straightened, suddenly alert. Something, a noise. He listened. Far off, a dull roaring. Douglas in the car. No, not yet, not for another 2 days. He stood up, snow pouring off him. The roar was growing, getting louder. His heart began to hammer wildly. He peered around, his beam flashing through the night. The ground shook, vibrating through him, rattling his almost empty oxygen tank. He gazed up at the sky and gasped. A glowing trail slashed over the sky, igniting the early morning darkness, a deep red swelling each second. He watched it, open-mouthed. Something was coming down, landing, a rocket. The long metal hull glittered in the morning sun. Men were working busily, loading supplies and equipment. Tunnel cars raced up and down, hauling material from the undersurface levels to the waiting ship. Men worked carefully and efficiently, each in his metal and plastic suit and his carefully sealed lead-line protection shield. "How many back at your mine?" Norris asked quietly. "About 30. Trent's eyes were on the ship. 33, including all those out. Out, looking like me. A couple are on their way here. They should arrive soon, late today or tomorrow." Norris made some notes on his chart. "We can handle about 15 with this load. We'll catch the rest next time. They can hold out another week." "Yes," Norris eyed him curiously. "How did you find us? This is a long way from Pennsylvania. We're making our last stop. If you had come a couple days later." "Some runners sent me this way. They said you had gone, they didn't know where." Norris laughed. We didn't know where either. You must be taking all this stuff someplace. This ship, it's old, isn't it? Fixed up. Originally it was some kind of bomb. We located it and repaired it, worked on it from time to time. We weren't sure what we wanted to do. We're not sure yet, but we know we have to leave. Leave Earth, of course. Norris motioned him toward the ship. They made their way up the ramp to one of the hatches. Norris pointed back down. Look down there at the men loading. The men were almost finished. The last cars were half empty, bringing up the final remains from underground. Books, records, pictures, artifacts, the remains of a culture. A multitude of representative objects shot into the hold of the ship to be carried off away from Earth. Where? Trent asked. To Mars for the time being, but we're not staying there. We'll probably go on out towards the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Ganymede may turn out to be something. If not Ganymede, one of the others. If worse comes to worst, we can stay on Mars. It's pretty dry and barren, but it's not radioactive. There's no chance here, no possibility of reclaiming the radioactive areas. If we could cool off Earth, neutralize the hot clouds, and if we did that, Norris said, they'd all die. Rollers, runners, worms, toads, bugs, all the rest. The endless varieties of life. Countless forms adapted to this Earth, this hot Earth. These plants and animals use the radioactive metals. Essentially, the new basis of life here is an assimilation of hot metallic salts which are utterly lethal to us. But even so, it's not really our world. We're the true humans, Trent said. Not anymore. Earth is alive, teeming with life, growing wildly in all directions. We're one form, an old form. To live here, we'd have to restore the old conditions, the old factors, the balance as it was 350 years ago. A colossal job. And if we succeeded, if we managed to cool Earth, none of this would remain. Norris pointed at the great brown forest. And beyond it, towards the south, at the beginning of the steaming jungle that continued all the way to the Straits of Magellan. In a way, it's what we deserve. We brought the war. We changed Earth, not destroyed, changed. Made it so different we can't live here any longer. Norris indicated the lines of helmeted men. Men sheathed in lead and heavy protection suits, covered with layers of metal and wiring, counters, oxygen tanks, shields, food pellets, filtered water. The men worked, sweated in their heavy suits. See them, what do they resemble? A worker came up, gasping and panting. For a brief second he lifted his viewplate and took a hasty breath of air. He slammed his plate and nervously locked it in place. Ready to go, sir, all loaded. Change of plan, Norris said. We're going to wait until this man's companions get here. Their camp is breaking up. Another day won't make any difference. All right, sir. The worker pushed off, climbing back down to the surface, a weird figure in his heavy lead-lined suit and bulging helmet and intricate gear. We're visitors, Norris told him. Trent flinched violently. What? Visitors on a strange planet, look at us. Shielded suits and helmets, spacesuits for exploring. We're a rocket ship stopping at an alien world on which we can't survive, stopping for a brief period to load up and then take off again. Closed helmets, Trent said in a strange voice. Closed helmets, lead shields, counters and special food and water, look over there. A small group of runners were standing together, gazing up in awe at the great gleaming ship. Off to the right, visible among the trees, was a runner village, checkerboard crops and animal pens and board houses. The natives, Norris said. The inhabitants of the planet. They can breathe the air, drink the water, eat the plant life. We can't. This is their planet, not ours. They can live here, build up a society. I hope we can come back, to visit sometime, Norris smiled ruefully. I hope so too, but we'll have to get permission from the inhabitants, permission to land. His eyes were bright with amusement and abruptly pain, a sudden agony that gleamed out over everything else. We'll have to ask them if it's all right, and they may say no, they may not want us. If you enjoyed this or any of my other work, please be sure to like and subscribe, as it really helps with the algorithm. And if you really enjoyed this, please leave me a tip via the link in the description. Thanks for listening.